Most people hear the word fat and immediately think of something bad, something to burn, lose, or fight against. But what if I told you that without fat, you wouldn't survive a single day? Fat isn't just extra weight, it's one of the body's most powerful and complex tools for staying alive. Every cell in your body relies on fat in some way. It cushions your organs, stores energy, and forms the outer layer of your cells, the membranes that keep everything inside working smoothly. Even your brain, that 3-pound universe of thoughts and memories, is nearly 60% fat. Without fat, your body couldn't absorb essential vitamins like A, D, E, and K. These nutrients dissolve in fat, not in water, meaning your body depends on fat to even process them. Imagine trying to run a car without oil. That's what a fatless body would be doing every second. So, before we erase fat from your body, remember this: it's not the enemy, it's the silent hero of your survival. And once it's gone, everything begins to collapse. Let's imagine this moment. One morning, you wake up and all your body fat has vanished. At first glance, you might look ripped, lean, almost superhuman. But beneath that illusion of perfection, chaos is waiting to unfold. Your body feels light, but it's not strength, it's weakness. The skin clings tightly to the bones, veins pulse visibly, and your organs have no cushion left. Every movement starts to hurt because fat isn't just about energy, it's a shock absorber for life. Inside, your cells are confused. They're built to store fat molecules called triglycerides, but now they find themselves empty. The body has lost its energy bank, and it begins burning through muscle instead, desperate to keep vital systems running. And here's the cruel twist. While you might look like a statue carved from marble, inside you're falling apart. No fat means no fuel, no protection, and no time. Without fat, your cells are no longer stable. Fat is a major part of every cell membrane, the thin barrier that separates life inside from the chaos outside. Without that fatty layer, cells become fragile, like bubbles ready to burst. The first victims are your nerve cells. They're wrapped in a fatty insulation called myelin, which lets electrical signals travel efficiently. Without it, your brain's communication lines start breaking down. Thoughts slow, reflexes weaken, and confusion sets in. Then the damage spreads. Red blood cells, liver cells, and skin cells all lose their structure. It's as if your entire body's architecture starts dissolving. Systems that once worked in harmony now crash into dysfunction. It's terrifying because the body doesn't just weaken, it disintegrates from within. The foundation of life, the cell, simply can't exist without fat. Fat isn't just stored energy, it's your long-term survival strategy. When glucose runs out, your body taps into fat to fuel everything from your heartbeat to your brain's activity. But with no fat, there's no backup plan. Within hours, your body begins consuming its own proteins. Muscles shrink, organs weaken, and blood sugar levels plummet. The liver struggles to keep up because it's designed to convert fat into ketones, your emergency energy source. Without fat, there are no ketones to make. The result? A full-scale metabolic meltdown. You feel dizzy, nauseous, exhausted. Your body temperature drops, and your heart starts working overtime to keep oxygen flowing. And here's the scariest part. Your body doesn't even know what's wrong. It's programmed to rely on fat for balance. Without it, every survival mechanism goes haywire. You start to feel cold. Not the kind of cold a blanket can fix, a deep, bone-chilling cold that spreads from your core outward. Fat acts like insulation, trapping warmth inside your body. Without it, you're bleeding heat into the air around you. Your body reacts with panic. The hypothalamus, your internal thermostat, sends emergency signals, telling your muscles to shiver in a desperate attempt to generate warmth. But with no fat reserves to burn, the effort fails. Soon, your body's temperature begins to drop below 35 degrees Celsius, 95 Fahrenheit. That's hypothermia territory. The heart rate slows, breathing becomes shallow, and confusion turns into delirium. And this is just the beginning. The loss of fat doesn't only make you cold, it starts to rewrite your body's entire hormonal system. If you're fascinated by how your body reacts to extreme conditions like this, make sure to subscribe right now, because the next discoveries will change the way you see human biology forever. When your body loses all its fat, it also loses one of its most underrated organs, your adipose tissue. Most people don't realize that fat isn't just storage, it's a living, active part of the endocrine system. Fat cells constantly communicate with the brain, liver, and muscles through hormones like leptin, adiponectin, and resistin, keeping your entire metabolism in balance. The moment those cells disappear, the body's internal communication system collapses like a city losing its power grid. Leptin is the hormone that tells your brain you've had enough to eat. Without it, the hypothalamus goes blind. It never receives the "I'm full" signal again. You become endlessly hungry, even as your body starves. Meanwhile, insulin sensitivity crashes, blood sugar spirals out of control, and your pancreas strains to compensate. Every cell in your body starts sending distress signals, but without fat cells, there's no backup system to answer. In women, the absence of fat leads to catastrophic hormonal shutdown. Estrogen and progesterone levels drop to nearly zero because fat cells help produce and regulate these hormones. Menstrual cycles stop, fertility vanishes, and bones weaken as calcium absorption declines. In men, testosterone levels collapse, leading to muscle wasting, mood swings, and severe fatigue. Both sexes experience plummeting serotonin, resulting in anxiety, depression, and even cognitive decline. The endocrine system is like an orchestra, each hormone an instrument playing its part in harmony. Without fat, that orchestra goes silent. The music of balance, growth, and vitality is replaced by static and chaos. The body isn't just thinner, it's hormonally mute, disconnected from the rhythm that keeps it alive. The brain is often described as the command center of the body, but few realize that it's built on a foundation of fat. Around 60% of the human brain is made of lipids, and every neuron is coated in a fatty sheath called myelin, which acts as insulation for electrical signals. When that insulation disappears, those signals begin to misfire, short-circuit, and slow down. The result? The mind, that miraculous network of memories, thoughts, and emotions, starts to unravel. At first, it's subtle. You might forget where you left something or lose track of a sentence mid-thought. But soon, the cognitive decline accelerates. You feel disoriented, your memory falters, and your ability to reason starts slipping away. Without fat, the brain's gray matter literally dries out. Synapses can't communicate properly. The once brilliant symphony of thought turns into static noise.
Emotionally, the damage is even more devastating. The brain relies on cholesterol and fatty acids to produce serotonin and dopamine, the chemicals that make you feel stable, motivated, and happy. Without them, your mood spirals downward. Anxiety rises first, followed by paranoia, emotional numbness, and sometimes hallucinations. The brain, starved of its own building blocks, begins to consume itself in confusion. Imagine watching your consciousness fade, piece by piece, knowing exactly what's happening but powerless to stop it. That's what life without fat looks like inside your head. A slow mental eclipse where every thought dims until the mind can no longer find its way back to the light. While your brain struggles, your heart, the tireless engine of your existence, begins to falter. The heart prefers fatty acids as its main source of energy, using them to generate more than 70% of its fuel. Without access to fat, the heart is forced to rely on glucose, a less efficient and short-lived energy source. Within days, energy shortages begin to appear, and the rhythm of life starts to stutter. At first, your pulse quickens. The heart works harder, trying to maintain circulation despite dwindling resources. But as muscle tissue weakens and electrolytes fall out of balance, each contraction becomes less effective. Your blood pressure drops, oxygen delivery slows, and dizziness turns into fainting. Fat also plays a structural role. A thin layer of fatty tissue cushions the heart and helps regulate its temperature. Without that protection, the heart literally rubs against surrounding organs, vulnerable to inflammation and strain. As the days pass, arrhythmias begin, irregular, chaotic heartbeats that signal the muscle's exhaustion. Calcium floods into heart cells uncontrollably, triggering spasms and tissue damage. Eventually, the heart starts consuming its own proteins just to keep beating. It's like a machine melting down while still trying to run. The cruel irony is that the very organ keeping you alive becomes one of the first to die. In a world without fat, even the heart, humanity's most enduring symbol of strength and emotion, can no longer carry on its rhythm. Fat is also the hidden ally of your immune system. Immune cells rely heavily on fatty acids to move, signal, and multiply. These lipids form part of their membranes and act as raw material for hormones called eicosanoids, which coordinate inflammation and healing. When fat disappears, your immune defense doesn't just weaken, it crashes completely. In the first days, you might not notice much, but soon, tiny infections that your body once fought off effortlessly begin to spread. A small cut turns red and refuses to heal. A sore throat becomes a fever. The gut microbiome, which depends on fatty acids to maintain a balance of good bacteria, begins to break down. The barrier between your digestive system and your bloodstream weakens, allowing toxins and pathogens to leak into your body. Your immune system, desperate and confused, begins to attack itself. Autoimmune reactions flare up because the body no longer recognizes friend from foe. Meanwhile, inflammation spreads through the tissues, but without fat, your cells can't repair the damage. The result is a state of biological chaos, constant illness, fatigue, and pain with no energy left to heal. At this stage, you're living in a body without defenses. The immune army has fallen, the gates are open, and the world outside, full of viruses, bacteria, and microscopic threats, becomes an overwhelming storm that your body can no longer withstand. When every other energy source is gone, your body turns inward for fuel, a process called catabolism, where tissues are broken down to feed essential functions. Muscles, once symbols of strength, are the first to go. Proteins are dismantled into amino acids, which the liver converts into glucose to keep your brain and heart alive. Each movement becomes slower, heavier, and more painful as your muscles literally consume themselves. Soon, your organs join the sacrifice. The liver, stripped of stored fat and glycogen, begins to shrink. It can no longer detoxify the blood efficiently, allowing ammonia and waste to build up. The kidneys overwork to filter these toxins, causing dehydration and eventual failure. Even the lungs weaken, their elasticity fading without the fatty surfactants that keep them flexible.
Internally, the body's architecture collapses. Organs that were once cushioned by soft layers of fat now press against each other. The intestines twist and pull, the stomach walls thin, and even the protective fat around the eyes disappears, making them sink into hollow sockets. The body becomes a sculpture of survival, fragile, hollow, and seconds away from breaking. In the end, the body doesn't die of one thing, it dies of everything. Every system depends on fat in some way, and when it's gone, life itself begins to unravel cell by cell until all that remains is silence. Your nervous system runs on fat, literally. Every thought, every heartbeat, every movement begins with a tiny electrical pulse traveling down a nerve fiber. These fibers are coated in a fatty substance called myelin, which acts as insulation, allowing signals to move swiftly and accurately. Without that insulation, your nerves are like exposed wires sparking in the rain. At first, the loss of myelin causes subtle delays, slower reflexes, a tingling sensation, maybe numbness in your fingertips. But as the degradation continues, the consequences grow catastrophic. Electrical impulses begin leaking out, misfiring, and crossing into wrong pathways. The brain sends commands that never arrive, or worse, signals that fire at random. This is exactly what happens in diseases like multiple sclerosis, where myelin is destroyed.
Patients lose coordination, strength, and control over their bodies. But in your case, it's not a disease, it's total absence. Without fat, your nervous system collapses completely, unable to transmit even the simplest command. Eventually, your body becomes a silent prison. You try to move, but nothing responds. The messages from your brain die in transit because the medium that carries them, the fat, no longer exists. Fat isn't just inside you, it's part of what shields you from the world. Beneath your skin lies a layer of subcutaneous fat that cushions your body, stores warmth, and keeps your skin hydrated and elastic. Without it, the surface of your body turns into a battlefield. The skin becomes paper-thin, stretched tight over bones and veins. Every touch hurts because there's no buffer left between the world and your nerves. Temperature changes feel extreme. The wind burns, the sun stings, and even the air feels heavy. The body can no longer regulate its surface temperature, and dehydration becomes constant. Cracks begin to form on the skin surface as the natural oils, which are made from fat, vanish. These fissures open the door to infections. Bacteria and fungi invade easily, and wounds heal painfully slow. What used to be the body's first line of defense becomes its weakest point. If you looked in the mirror, you wouldn't recognize yourself. The glow, the color, the softness, all gone. What remains is a fragile shell, struggling to protect a body that's already falling apart inside. Now imagine this. Could we cheat biology? Could technology let us survive without fat? Scientists have actually tried to imagine that future. There are theories about artificial energy systems, nanobots that store power, synthetic membranes that replace cell walls, even digital metabolic controls that mimic fat's chemical role. But here's the problem. Fat isn't just energy, it's architecture, communication, and chemistry. It interacts with hormones, immune cells, and even the microbiome in ways we're still discovering. Replacing that with machines or synthetic compounds would mean replicating an entire ecosystem that evolved over millions of years. Even if we created artificial fat, the body's cells might not recognize it. Enzymes wouldn't know how to process it, and immune cells could see it as an invader. Technology could maybe imitate the storage function, but not the intelligence. Fat doesn't just store energy, it decides when and how to use it. So no, even in a futuristic world of biotech and nanomachines, we wouldn't truly survive without fat. We might keep the body alive, but the essence of life, that dynamic balance of energy and emotion, would still be gone. By now, it's clear that fat isn't the villain we've been taught to hate. In fact, research shows that people with a balanced amount of healthy fat, especially omega-3s from fish, nuts, and seeds, live longer, think sharper, and age more slowly. Fat isn't a threat, it's protection and disguise. Good fat lowers inflammation, strengthens brain connections, and even supports your heart by maintaining flexible arteries. Without it, every organ becomes brittle. With it, the body remains resilient. Cultures like the Japanese and Mediterranean populations, whose diets are rich in natural fats, consistently show some of the highest life expectancies in the world. The irony is striking. After decades of trying to cut fat from our diets, science has circled back to recognize it as essential for vitality. Your body doesn't just want fat, it depends on it to stay balanced, youthful, and sharp. So the next time someone calls fat the enemy, remember, it's not about how much fat you have, but what kind. Fat isn't a flaw, it's a feature of survival. If you found this fascinating, you'll love this next experiment. What happens to your immune system during fasting? It dives even deeper into how your body adapts or collapses when deprived of vital nutrients. Don't miss it. If this journey taught us anything, it's that the human body is a masterpiece of balance. Every system, the brain, heart, hormones, nerves, and skin, relies on fat as an anchor. Remove that anchor, and the body drifts into chaos. Keep it balanced, and the body thrives in perfect harmony.
Fat is more than biology. It's a symbol of life's delicate equilibrium. It teaches us that strength isn't about removing what we think is bad, but about understanding why it exists. Every gram of fat in your body carries wisdom, an ancient survival code written by evolution itself. So, what if you had no fat in your body? You'd lose far more than weight. You'd lose warmth, emotion, and identity. Fat connects your cells, powers your brain, protects your heart, and keeps your spirit alive. Without it, you wouldn't just die, you'd unravel. If you've made it this far, tell me in the comments, did this change the way you think about fat? And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still thinks fat is the enemy. The truth deserves to be heard.